Hello and welcome to the Entrepreneur's Wealth Channel, the information channel dedicated to entrepreneurs, successful and aspiring people. Remember that immersing yourself in the right training and practicing the right action is the key to your success. In this video we talk about the quadrants of cash flow, the personal finance book by Robert Kiyosaki, the guide to financial freedom. About the author. Robert Kiyosaki is an American investor, businessman, motivational speaker and author who works towards financial literacy. Born and raised in Hawaii, he currently lives with his wife, also a real estate investor in Phoenix, Arizona. After graduating from New York, he became a Marine and served as a helicopter pilot in the Vietnam War. Who knows who is the author of over 25 books, including Rich Dad Poor Dad, which has sold over 40 million copies worldwide and was a New York Times bestseller for years. The cash flow quadrant is a model that shows where people acquire their income. You can be an employee, self-employed, large entrepreneur or investor. The cash flow dial is a template designed by Robert Kiyosaki to show the 4 ways people acquire most of their income. The 2 quadrants on the left are the quadrant E and the quadrant S, which refer respectively to employees or employees onwards and to self-employed workers or small entrepreneurs, while in the right quadrants we find the large entrepreneurs and investors. An employee works for someone else's system. A small business owner instead creates his own system. A great entrepreneur creates, owns and controls a system. An investor invests money in the system. Each of us in our life can gain from 1 or 2 or all 4 quadrants. For example, consider a doctor who could make a living as an employee of a hospital, an insurance company, or working in the military with a classic 9 to 5:30 p.m. But a doctor can also choose to be self-employed and open a private practice, hiring employees and creating a circle of clients. Again, he will have to work a lot, but he will have control over his work. The doctor could also become a large entrepreneur, open his own clinic and hire other doctors. Probably in this case he will have to entrust the management of the organization to others, and so he would be the owner of the clinic, but without working on it himself. Or the same doctor could continue to work as a professional in his field, but at the same time start a new business not related to medicine. Additionally, his income as a doctor will likely be in fit, so he could also become an investor, for example in stocks or real estate, while continuing to practice medicine, run a clinic or run his own business. It is therefore evident that each of the 4 quadrants requires a different set of personal characteristics and skills. There is no right or wrong choice, everyone can choose the place they prefer. However, to become truly wealthy and achieve financial freedom, you need to land in the 4th quadrant, that of investors. The employee works for others and gets a salary in exchange for his hours of work. He is risk-averse and seeks financial security through a long-term contract. In the upper left quadrant we find the category of employees, those who work for others or for a company and obtain a salary in exchange for a certain number of hours of work. Employees seek financial security through a long-term contractual agreement and seek financial success through corporate takeover. Most people are in the employee quadrant because they are hardwired to be. From infancy as children we are told to work hard, be careful with money and not to take chances. Financially we are not taught to start our own business or to invest. The main benefit of being an employee is reduced financial uncertainty, but a successful employee will usually have little free time and his or her performance will generally be higher than the salary he earns. In fact, unlike what happens in the other quadrants, an employee is almost always paid on the basis of working time and not on his actual performance. However, this does not mean that a person occupying the 1st quadrant is necessarily poor. Many employees amass considerable wealth, and especially the professionals, such as doctors and lawyers who work for the company. But getting rich in this quadrant is very difficult. Just measure wealth as Robert Kiyosaki does by the number of days you can survive without actually working and still maintain your current standard of living. Many people are temporarily rich by social standards. They have a big house, a new car, nice clothes, but instead of investing their own money, most people as soon as they get a pay raise, will immediately buy a bigger house or a new car, resulting in higher expenses monthly and having to work even harder to maintain the same standard of living. Because they won't make long-term investments that will lead them to earn more money in the future, they aren't really rich. If you really want to be rich, your goal should be to have enough money in your checking account to cover all your monthly expenses for as long as you live. The self-employed, on the other hand, is his own boss. He is highly skilled, able to control his own self-created system, and earns money based on how much work he can do. In the lower left quadrant we find the self-employed who are independent and able to control the value they offer. If an employee copes with fear by seeking safety, a self-employed person does this by taking control and achieving financial success, becoming highly skilled in a competitive field. These workers are their own bosses, tending to work alone within systems they develop on their own, as contractors or freelancers with their own client base. For these people, money is actually the icing on the cake. What they really want is independence. According to many personal finance experts, this is the riskiest quadrant. 9 out of 10 small businesses fail within the first 5 years, mostly due to inexperience and insufficient capital. Despite the risks though, many self-employed people are successful professionally and financially, but to do so they need to spend more time on their job, as their income directly depends on how much work they can do. Their time is money. The great entrepreneur achieves financial success through the creation of a collaborative, profitable and independent business system. In the upper right quadrant we find the great entrepreneurs. One of the most significant differences between a small and a large business is the dependency on the owner in large businesses. The entrepreneur can leave the company for an entire year and return and find an even more prosperous enterprise, while if a small entrepreneur or self-employed person were to leave for a year, when he returned, he would find a non-existent business. A self-employed person owns a job, a large entrepreneur owns a system. Entrepreneurs make money mostly from the work of others and let other people run a large part of their businesses. It is no coincidence that successful entrepreneurs are good at delegating and finding the right people to do the job. They are often intuitive marketers and good communicators. The great entrepreneur fights for freedom and achieves financial success by creating a profitable business system. As a large business owner, you can have time and financial freedom pretty quickly. The quadrant of the great entrepreneurs is therefore one of the best quadrants to get rich. However, like any business, there is always the possibility of losing money. To move from the self-employed to the entrepreneurial quadrant, you need to change yourself and your knowledge about the system. Because running a large business requires ownership or control of a system and the ability to lead people, the investor uses his or her money to create more money through calculated risks. He doesn't have to work because his money works for him and he can thus achieve financial freedom. In the lower right quadrant we find investors united by the search for freedom, by the willingness to take calculated risks and by the fact that they are not afraid of volatility. Investors like Warren Buffett understand the risks of a financially unstable world, but precisely because they understand them, they embrace them better than anyone else. The road to financial independence begins with this attitude. Many experts believe the investor quadrant is the best place to build real wealth, as investors use their own money to create more money. Unlike the great entrepreneur, in fact, the investor obtains financial success by allocating money where money has the highest expected return. The investor doesn't have to work because his money works for him. Real investors don't park their money, they always move their money acquiring new assets. In fact, the cash flow quadrant doesn't apply to people who make long-term investments, such as retirement plans. Instead, it applies to those who live off their investments in the present, with investments that generate income on an ongoing basis, because I know who investing is the key to financial freedom. People who don't invest or invest badly will never know what true freedom is, as the boundaries of their life will always be defined by money. Furthermore, these people will find themselves working hard, worrying about their finances throughout their lives, and being dependent on others to take care of them, such as the government or family. However, one cannot jump right into the investor quadrant without being successful. In one of the other three quadrants, capital is essential to becoming rich, and therefore one of the best ways to become financially free is to obtain capital, By starting a business that allows you to earn money while you sleep, creating a system that can work even when you don't. You in. Making it in the business world will help you not only accumulate capital to invest, but also help you become a great investor. Your intuition will tell you which business models will produce better, long-term returns. There are 5 levels to transforming from people with no financial intelligence to financially free investors. Often the prospect of becoming an investor is intimidating for people. But an inexperienced investor can gain confidence with a little education. There are 5 levels of investors. People who don't have any financial intelligence and don't invest their money, even if they are temporarily rich, end up getting more into debt than they should. Before investing, they should pay off their debt. Unfortunately, this is the case for most people, the financially illiterate savers who put their hard-earned money under their mattress or in a low-interest bank. In the past, it was believed that saving money alone would guarantee financial security, but today this approach does not make you rich. Since interest rates are very low, just saving isn't enough. In the case of people who are too busy with their careers, family and friends to devote their time to investing and who therefore put their money in the hands of financial advisors who invest for them. However, these investors are not without risk. After the 2008 crash, for example, many investors realized that their trusted expert wasn't actually that experienced. They lost money because they put their money into the hands not of successful investors, but of employees of financial advisory firms. Professionals, on the other hand, people who use their money and make their own decisions, are constantly training to improve as investors become more focused on their investments and develop a financial education that will be useful to them throughout their life. This is the first level of real investors, and it would be a good idea for everyone to achieve this level of knowledge. Whatever we do, financial education is a big investment in itself. The final level, however, is the capitalist level. This type of investor comes from Quadrant B. He is first and foremost a great entrepreneur. He learned to use his experience to invest and gained capital to invest in riskier investments. These people have advisors to help them gather information about the markets, and they don't invest on their own, so they come to financial freedom. However, those who do not aspire to build a business empire as a large entrepreneur can invest as a professional at the previous level. To change the dial and become financially free, you have to start thinking and acting differently. During his childhood in Hawaii, Robert Kiyosaki had 2 father figures, his biological father. Poor Dad was a government official, while his friend Mike's father, Rich Dad, was a self-made businessman and investor, he says, who learned vital lessons about work and money. Looking at their lives, the biological father seemed to be successful. Outwardly, he was well educated, respected, and after being an excellent student, he had risen to head of education in the Hawaiian government, but he was overwhelmed with work. He is always traveling, with little time to spend with his family or to devote to his passion for books. Also, although he held a prestigious position, we didn't have that much money. Though intelligent and well educated, he still believed in the central myth of our time that if you work hard without investing, you will be financially secure. Mike's father, on the other hand, seemed to have the time and the money. Instead of getting trapped in the E and S quadrants, the rich father decided he would escape the routine of dependent work. He bought a property bit by bit and eventually built a hotel empire. Despite being looked down upon by educated people, he began to receive passive income from his hotels and became free to do as he pleased. It's hard to shake off the cultural heritage of a family that embraces and nurtures the employed dial. The poor father will teach you how to go to school, get a degree, get a good job, and become a well-paid employee. But the skills needed to excel on the right side of the quadrant aren't taught in school. Changing the dial like the rich father did is far from easy, but if you want to succeed, you must first of all start thinking and acting differently. Following common sense, working hard, and doing what everyone else is doing is not going to make you rich. To get rich, you have to think independently. People focus too much on what they need to do rather than who they need to be. While the cash flow dial is based on being, not doing. You should therefore aim to strengthen your thoughts, be so that you can take appropriate action. Doing to become financially free. Having to become financially free is essential to overcome the irrational feelings caused by money, have a long-term vision and take advantage of compound interest. The main reason for people's lack of prosperity is that they are driven by fear of losing money in school. We learn how to pass exams, but we are not emotionally prepared to take financial risks. Instead, the financial IQ for those in the know, who is composed of 90% emotional IQ and only 10% technical information. To be successful, one must be emotionally neutral. Regardless of the outcome, you need to understand that winning or losing is part of the process. It is essential to overcome the irrational feelings caused by money. In fact, many people find it difficult to think logically about money, as they consider it too important for them. But when it comes to money, logic should take precedence over emotion. Also, a real estate or stock market investment should never be excessively risky and scary, but should always be a calculated risk. The rules are very similar to those of Monopoly. Secure as many profitable homes as possible, which in reality can be anything from rental properties to stocks. Or buy 4 greenhouses and then trade them for a big red hotel, i.e. start with lots of small investments, and when you start earning more I might move to bigger investments. To achieve financial freedom it takes small steps and a long-term mindset. We live in an era filled with get-rich-quick schemes. So many books and courses promise instant wealth, but few work. Only the person who sells them gets rich. If you want to get rich, approach things pragmatically. If you want to live a life on your own terms, you have to create your own system of earning money. A system that can work on its own. For many people this means earning a passive income, a regular cash flow that requires little or no maintenance effort. Some examples of this type are income that comes from a rental property or from the sale of coursed holes. In addition to holding a long-term vision and plan and a belief in delayed gratification, really wealthy people use the power of compound interest in their favor. If you want to achieve financial freedom, you should invest for long-term compounding returns. This means investing now, starting small, and then reinvesting the dividends or profits. Plus, you need to invest in your financial education as well. It is much more useful to acquire a good knowledge of the stock or real estate market than to invest in a risky portfolio, but above all to create something that lasts and that brings you financial freedom. You will face related emotional, spiritual and physical challenges. The process will be long, and in the meantime you may have to agree to do a job you hate, working for a bad boss for a few years. But while doing so you will also need to build your own side project. Create a simple plan for your future and follow it strictly. It is a tough process and few people can keep up with this way of life. They prefer to look for shortcuts. Managing the extra work when you want to move from quadrant E to quadrant B is both emotionally and intellectually difficult, and so many people end up returning to the quadrant where they feel more comfortable, i.e. regular employment. But according to the rich father, success is a bad teacher. You have to experience loss to get into the right frame of mind and climb the ladder of prosperity. People learn to work for money, but they never learn to make money work for them. For them, success is a bad teacher. We learn more about ourselves when we fail. So don't be afraid to fail. Failure is part of the success process. You cannot be successful without failure. You will never know true freedom until you achieve financial freedom. Your boss's job is not to make you rich. Winning and losing are just part of the game to remember. Your boss's job is to make sure you get your paycheck. Getting rich is your job if you want to. To be successful as an investor or entrepreneur, you must be emotionally neutral about winning and losing. The cash flow dial is a way to rank people based on how they make money. The watch faces are meant to show you where you are today in terms of personal finances and help you chart a course towards where you want to be in the future. Most people assume they can get rich by working hard, but the reality is that employees never get paid the amount of money their work deserves. So the only way to align your effort with the money you receive is to become an entrepreneur. Moving away from the employee quadrant is essential to wealth acquisition. There is no right way to live your life, but the B quadrants are what can lead you into financial freedom. Changing dials is not like changing jobs or changing professions. You have to change the way you think or how you look at the world to become financially secure. You don't have to work too hard. You simply build a system that can work for you, supporting you whether you work or not. In conclusion, The Cashflow Quadrants is one of the most read books by successful people and entrepreneurs, a book that above all offers useful advice and strategies to better manage our personal finances and to become financially independent. If you think it might help, don't forget to support the channel by subscribing and liking it. Also, support the author by purchasing the book. Link in description. Thanks for watching.